Okay, go for it, Gita.
Maya is that which carries your consciousness away from the reality of the self. It is the energy of illusion. Due to this action of Maya, a covering comes into existence where you will achieve those powers explained in the previous sutra. But in fact, due to these powers, the supreme consciousness of the Lord Shiva does not appear. Wow.
Well, I can't take your time, but I got to hear the wow and what was, feeling good about that right there. So just let me know what.
It's the very last sentence.
Hmm.
Due to these powers, the supreme consciousness of Lord Shiva does not appear. That is almost a paraphrasing of the Muktananda translation you read maybe 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago.
By the conquest of delusion, the supreme realization is attained.
So it's just the obverse of Muktananda's sentence.
Mm. Due to these
So
powers,
you
the
really,
supreme
I
consciousness
mean,
is not
it's
attained.
what's the word I'm looking for? It's talking about the need to surrender
Hmm.
these delusional or illusional powers, or otherwise there is no merging with the self.
Mm.
That's how I interpret it.
Yeah. Thank you for, and that's really amazing that you're able to cross apply this Muktananda passage and see that they're the same phrase. One's positive, one's negative, just sort of the inverted quality. So it's saying, due to the powers, you miss Shiva. And the other one, Muktananda, is translating it and saying that um, conquer illusion and you'll find Shiva. And the other
Mm-hmm.
one's saying if you're buying into the illusion, you miss Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're buying into it, you miss it. Or you could say conquer them and you'll see it. Yeah.
Um, what was really helpful for me about Gita connecting those two is like when I hear delusion, I'm like, yeah, I want to conquer delusion. I feel like we can all agree on that. But then you hear about powers, and it's sort of like you realize, like, oh, delusion doesn't feel like delusion when you're in it, right?
Mm.
It's like, oh, it might be sort of fun or mesmerizing. And so realizing that these limited powers are delusion and that delusion is limited powers sort of helps me realize why it's so hard.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dialan.
The thing that strikes me about it is that I think in our practice we don't talk about Maya a lot. We don't use that word maybe,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, and how they talk about how Lakshmanji talks about it as being like an energy. Like it's not just the lack of consciousness. It's like an actual energy of illusion, which I think is like a newer concept for me, which is maybe why some people don't. At least for me, I could see why that could be where that'd be not as easy to resonate with in a certain way, because it's like I never thought about Maya as being like this actual. I mean, I know I guess they do say that in the Shiva Sutras, but it's like a covering and it's an energy of it, and it's uh, almost like actively uh, keeping you from realizing.
Mm. Yeah, the next paragraph goes right in that direction, Dialan. So maybe we'll use it as a segue because it starts to talk about a little bit more about this covering and the nature of Maya a little bit. So let's just jump. Let's just go right in from there. Who wants to read? Give it a shot.
Um, Jagan Mati, will you read?
I'll try to scroll right when it's time.
All right, ready? We'll get in sync here. This is said in Sri Lakshmi Kulanarva Tantra, that being who arose spontaneously, Swayambha, and appeared in this universe by his own free will, Svayancha,
Svatantriya.
but Svatantriya,
Yeah.
thank you, who is not entangled, wait, I have to move my box there, who is not entangled in the wheel of repeated births and deaths, who is the supreme state, which is beyond various thoughts, Vikalpa, and who is the eternal treasure, is only Shiva and none else. All actions of limited beings are witnessed by him. The one who is directed towards these limited yogic powers is carried away from the consciousness of Lord Shiva and is not capable of experiencing his nature. Wow, that's a big one.
Just to review, so that being, and then it goes on to describe Shiva, who arose spontaneously, who appeared in the universe of his own free will, who is not entangled in the repeated births and deaths. This is just a list, right? Who is the supreme state, which is beyond thoughts, and then also, and who is the eternal treasure. That being, the one who can fulfill those criteria, that's Shiva and no one else. All actions of limited beings are witnessed by him is a very dense sentence that I'm still working to unpack. But just so that first half isn't so overwhelming, it's really just descriptors of Shiva. And then it goes on the last sentence to talk about this concept that I think we're still working with Maya. So I have a hand here from Christy, and you should be able to just talk to the mic, Christy, and it's ready. Can y'all hear Christy? Maybe just bring it closer.
Oh, maybe closer. Can you hear me now? No.
Oh, you got to turn it on. You got to turn it on. There's a button.
Did the light go on? There's like a slidey.
Just slide it up. Yeah, I tested
Can you
it
hear
earlier.
me? No, they can't hear me.
I can hear you like in the background.
You barely talk, and
Very
you
low.
speak up a little.
Oh, okay. What about now? Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Oh. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I think this sentence I really liked. The one who is directed toward these limited yogic powers is carried away. That just made me think of what Diane said, that this idea that that illusion is an energy, I think is really like a sophisticated idea in yogic philosophy, because we're so used to imagining that our experience is true and that like our limited selves are who, our lowercase s is everything. And so to really be able to imagine that there is something else and that's not, that is just illusion, like really strikes me as a really big, just really big. And so I thought that I connected more with the Muktananda translation, because it's in line with remembering that we are limited and that we have to work to destroy that.
Thanks, Christy. Oh, Radharani, you want to add on to that or go in a new direction?
Well, this sutra makes me sometimes think it's like a warning of not getting distracted by things that that can come up with in your practice sometimes, and it's like not to hold on to certain, sometimes that's what I was thinking, not to hold on to certain experiences and getting distracted by it, but just keeping your focus on the goal. Those things can come up, but really your goal is one, and don't get distracted by things in the way. So that's what it's made me think this last couple weeks working with it.
Can I ask you a personal question that you don't have to answer, Radharani? I know in the last intensive you had a really special experience. Have you found yourself having to work with that, of like surrendering the experience and like keeping your eye on the prize, or does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. And actually, I've heard Baba say it many times. Like, sometimes you get so caught up in an experience and you want it again, that you're actually not allowing something new to happen. So I had heard him say that many times before. And yes, like during the intensity, it was this big experience. And after it finished, I just thought of his words and said, okay, you're surrendering. So I'm reading the sutra. It was like just thinking about that, thinking like just surrender, because and he once he gave an example of someone that he had a beautiful experience, and that person was just like always looking to get back to that and go back to that, and he was like, you're wasting your time, that may not come back. You are losing sight of something else. So yes, it absolutely connects with that. For me. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Radharani. Dharma, are you leaning in for? No.
I'm moving from speaker view to gallery view.
Thanks for the play-by-play.
Yeah, it's carried away from the consciousness. It's carried away from consciousness. It makes sense, when you start to focus on trying to generate a certain experience, that certain experience is taking you down the ladder of the tattvas, down the ladder of manifestation into differentiation. Whereas when you're focused on just consciousness itself, raising your level of awareness, that takes you up, up the tattvas towards what would appear to be less manifest. And that's why it's called subtle, We're going towards the subtle. There's just a lot in there. There's one last thing I wanted to say about Maya, because it doesn't go into it per se, a lot more after this paragraph, is that Maya is something that Shiva creates on purpose for manifestation to exist. And so it doesn't quite make sense, on a certain level. But for example, in the Jayadeva Singh translation, which I might be able to just pull up skillfully, not too skillfully, you'll see the part that I have in blue there. It says, this is the same paragraph. It says, the Lord, the divine, who is self-existent without the residual effect of any previous life. And then it says, being deluded by his own Maya Shakti. Being deluded by his own Maya Shakti, does not perceive Shiva, who is beyond all thought constructs. So it's just this idea that it's not like something's working against us, because Maya is also Shiva. Because, there's that logical aspect to the sutras, which always says to us, if that thing you're encountering was not Shiva, then it wouldn't exist. And so it's just important to remember that, Maya is also Shiva. And it's not an antagonistic aspect, but it's like we're supposed to use Maya to grow, right? We're supposed to use these experiences to fuel our growth. You know, I was just writing about this last night where I was, imagine like someone in archery, for example, you set up the target, you pull back the arrow and you let it fly, and you're doing like target practice. You're practicing to become better at archery. So in a sense, it's like when you get one target down, you probably want to move it a little further away, and so you're using that target to improve your ability at archery. So essentially Maya is this moving target that we're encountering every day that we're supposed to literally use in order to improve and to raise our level of consciousness. So it'd be the equivalent of being like, these targets, they're against me, when you're doing target practice. And you're like, well, yeah, they're hard to hit, but without the targets, try getting better at archery without targets. It's going to be really hard, I don't know what you would do. So it's just interesting to always remind ourselves, Shiva is also this illusion, and it's just a matter of how we use it.
So it's like, in the analogy, Maya is helping us get better at like surrender.
Maya is what we surrender to grow, yeah. And so the target here, it's like instead of trying to it's funny, I feel like I'm unpacking the whole thing that I wrote in order to make this one point. I'm not trying to make a big elaborate point based on this, but when you're shooting at these targets of Maya, the target is helping you see your own limitations. And so as you're encountering Maya, we're supposed to be really feeling ourself. That target is helping you feel spaces in yourself that are blocked. And so we use the target to feel inwardly. So it's like by using we're actually surrendering. We're using the target, but simultaneously trying to feel inside. But we can't stop shooting. We've got to keep working. So.
I really like that you said it's like a moving target.
That Maya is, yeah.
Because it's, then I can kind of picture it as that energy. It's like Maya is an energy. It's not just this one thing that you have to get past once. Mm. Like Maya is getting created every moment. There's new Maya, and you have to wake up. And it kind of reminds me of like when Baba or Rudy would say, like, you have to learn how to surrender in a new way every day. Like it's like, so I like your analogy, and I like that you said it's a moving target, because I see it as that energy of creation, of illusion.
Mm.
Go ahead, Dharma.
Yeah, I think just this text, the one sort of in that yellow color, is talking about Shiva with a lot of these qualities of like free will, and we talked about Shiva being like beyond the void as Shiva, and in this, the language that it's used, it feels like very sort of human traits, right? A way that we can sort of relate to that. And I don't know, that struck me. It's just that the language, it felt like we were talking about a person when we were talking about Shiva.
Well, this sutra is going to go on to describe some of the traditional ways we categorize how we work with Maya. Dayalan, you're right. We don't use the word Maya a ton, but we definitely use the word illusion. We use the word tension. Those are all ways that we encounter Maya. And It's the idea that if you were to, just for a moment, because again, philosophy gets the bad rap of like, philosophy puts you in my head. Doesn't have to, because you can watch right now, just like, this should inspire you to just try like a 30-second meditation where you assume you're covered in Maya. Assume that what you experience when you attempt to watch your breath right now, you're not going to experience your true nature. You're going to experience Maya. And the way that you work with that will define your meditation. All right, I promised a 30-second meditation, and I want to keep to my word. Anyone feel like just the very notion that you will encounter Maya and that you need to like work with it, did that give you any perspective on your practice? Any kind of difference?
Hey Sachin, it's Tashi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, actually. I mean, yeah, amazing.
Great. I'm in the back of the temple, so you may not see me. I'm behind a pillar, but so I love what this meditation did for me. Thinking about Maya and sort of anticipating experiencing it in my practice. What it did was it just sort of it caused this interaction, because it felt like if I try to do anything to experience meditation with my will, it's only going to make more illusion, because I don't know, I didn't understand it, it just happened. So the way that I felt Maya inside as I was trying to feel my breath was just expanding beyond the situation. It was like relaxing into not doing anything, and it helped me a lot to think about how Maya plays into practice, because I wasn't technically thinking about it in those terms.
Thanks, Tashi. That was really helpful. Yeah, the idea that Maya is right, it's going to be right in front of you the minute you practice. So if you pounce on whatever appears first, it's like, whoop, gotcha. And so you were saying like you relaxed a little bit almost because of that anticipation of the busyness of the mind or the illusion that you're probably already caught in. Wow. Thanks. I don't even know if I can unpack what you said skillfully enough, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sachin.
Anyone else before we move on to some of these classical ways we're going to talk about Maya? Okay. So you've probably read the 8 Limbs of Yoga at some point in your yogic career, and you might know that practices such as yoga, it's like the physical practice of yoga is the 3rd limb, and then above that we use that as a stepping stone towards pranayama, which is breathing exercises, pratyahara, which is concentration exercises, and which sort of paves the way for the experience of meditation, which paves the way, dharana, which paves the way, or dhyana, dhyana,
Yeah.
which paves the way for the experience of samadhi, merging, etc. So there are these like categories of our practice. And then the rest of this text, this chapter, sort of tries to give us what the Shiva Sutras are saying is the clearest interpretation of that category that we could go after, to the way that we can go after that with the least amount of illusion, per se. And so we're almost to it. It's going to be in green here. Govinda, would you mind just reading the blue? If hopefully the text is clear enough. And then,
Sure.
and then Kathleen, if you want to get ready, you're going to be next in after him in green. So maybe open your book up to 3.6. Go ahead, Govinda.
All right. On the other hand, that yogi whose covering of illusion has subsided and who also practices these same yogic exercises, such as asana, dhyana, dharana, and samadhi, is not caught in the grip of these limited yogic powers. For him, these yogic exercises are unique. They are uncommon and are not experienced by ordinary people.
Wow. Govinda, you're hired. It was really great reading. I was captivated. So a little bit of a summary of where we just were and a little bit of alluding to where we're about to go.
And it was describing Tashi, that yogi whose covering of illusion has subsided. Way to go, Tashi.
Yeah, and he was saying how like it was simple exercises that became somehow illuminating. I hear an echo as if Tashi's about to say something. No? Okay. Just making sure. All right, so we got a little bit of green here to cover. And Kathleen, if you're ready.
It starts with the word first.
I got it.
Uh-oh.
First, he explains the uncommon meaning.
I'm going to pause you, Kathleen. Anyone having trouble hearing Kathleen?
Ordinarily,
Okay.
asana means
Kathleen, I'm going to pause you there.
in some particular posture.
Sorry, it looks like your internet's lagging a lot. Maybe today's not the right day for reading.
Sorry.
Hey, no problem at all. We're all in this one together. Like,
I'll probably just get it.
but Lori, are you ready? You want to read green? Oh, and then sure, Anonymous, I got you on the radar now.
First, he explains the uncommon meaning of asana. Ordinarily, asana means to sit in some particular posture. First, your master directs you to sit in a posture such as that known as Padmasana.
Yep.
Or
Swastika asana.
Swastika asana. He tells you not to lean, just sit up straight. You try to do whatever he tells you to do. This is done first, but for each an advanced yogi, asana is also unique.
And then Anonymous, if you want to just continue that thought into the yellow, and this will give us a little more to work with as far as discussion and practice.
Sure. He is to direct his consciousness between his two breaths of exhaling and inhaling. After putting his consciousness in the center between these two breaths, he must hold his awareness in that center, and there he must establish this power of awareness in continuity, not being diverted for even one moment. When he is established there, this is real posture, asana, for this yogi. Wow.
Anyone, any initial reflections on this? I know a lot of us probably teach yoga, and we're not expecting this to be the definition of asana. Nonetheless, it is. Yes, we have Padmapani here. Just go ahead and just grab the mic. Yeah, hold it up close.
Cool, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
So Abaya taught a yoga class here recently that was about being bound up in different positions and then still kind of just seeing where you can go to when you're in that space. And so that just kind of resonated with me. It's like you can get in a bound posture and then be like, I'm a pretzel, like I'm all bound up. Or you can kind of take a breath and see like, can I use this as a tool to, like, almost like Maya's like a ladder that you can kind of climb instead of just like bonking your head on. You can kind of use these things in a different way, more than meets the eye, more in a less mundane kind of way.
Thanks, Padma.
I really love what you said, Padma, about using Maya as a ladder, like having this experience of being bound, and then instead of that making us smaller, like helping that lift us up. Like how do I feel more expansive? How do I get beyond this tightness that I'm feeling? It sort of reminds me of what Tashi was saying, right? Of like knowing as we went into that 30-second meditation, like, okay, I'm going to experience Maya. Like, what am I going to do? And it's almost like, okay, when we have that perspective, we have the advantage of being like, okay, I'm going to like soften, I'm going to let go, I'm going to ungrip. And in that yoga class, it was about like finding softness and sweetness and mobility in a place that might have first felt like tight. But then it's like, no, I can feel safe and comfortable and sweet. And I think that's the goal a lot when we feel tightness, you know, physically, but also mentally and emotionally.
And I think this brings out the concept of effortless effort in our yoga, in our physical practice, where we're trying to find our center amidst the movement, in this case, of the breath, but also the movement of the body. You know, how can you find that center point from which you're moving? You know, how can you observe the movement? How can you hold your focus in that center point amidst many breaths or amidst many movements? Even though it doesn't say movement here, I think we can interpret it. And then hold your focus there throughout many movements.
Anandamai?
Yeah, I think this may be what you were saying, but a lot of times when we teach yoga, you know, we're just waiting till we get to the asana, right? Warrior 1 or Warrior 3. And it's in between the movements that's just as important, the transition, so that continuity. I don't know if that's what you were kind of getting at, Sachin, but it's every moment being present, not just when I get to eat my cake for my birthday, or when I get into that asana, or when I get whatever it is, come to class. But it's when I leave this seat and go in the room, that continuity.
Yeah, and just to like keep it in your example, the yoga example, when I do that, I feel like it becomes so much more fun when it's not just like, oh, okay, now I'm in Virabhadrasana 3, but like enjoying the whole journey, and like it's like, oh, now it's my birthday. But then also, you know, enjoying like the steps along the way. It's like, oh, everything can be fun if I just switch my perspective and it's not just point A to point B. You're nodding. Do you have an experience of that, Anandama? It's okay if you don't.
You know, I'm just working on it. It's just working on it now. So I have a philosophy class too, and we're on 3.16 in the Yoga Sutras, and it's almost exactly this 3.6. So it's really fascinating to me. But we're working on the breath and staying with it when we come off the seat or in between the asanas. So I just like this. This is nice.
Yeah, and a physical movement that we do a lot, and this can lead us into meditation. You know, for example, if you were if you're paying attention to like the external too much, it's really hard to like keep your focus centered. Like, for example, if I said, and we can all try this, you know, pay attention to your hands and your as you lift your arms up, you know, and it's like, or pay attention to your arms, or if I just said lift your arms up and I just said lift your arms and lower them, lift your arms and lower them, you feel sort of externalized. Your arms are outside of you. Now, if you pause and then I say, hold your focus. I know this is going to sound funny, but it actually has anatomical foundational principles. bring your awareness to the center of your back. This is actually where your arms sort of connect back to and move from. So hold your focus in the center of your back. And then lift your arms and watch how light they are. And then see if you can have your focus there in the center of the back. Again, as you lift them, and just notice how your focus is centered. Your arms are lifting. You did the thing. But for some reason, your awareness didn't go external. And so there's a lot of aspects to our yoga practice that we try to bring that in, where movement can come from the inside out, you know. Dharma?
I'm seeing that use of the word power in a sort of a different way. I was talking about power, Maya as a power. And here, this power of awareness and continuity is like the thing that brought about the unique experience of this yogi.
So what is the power of awareness and continuity? How does that look in your practice?
Well, it's sort of like a laser, or like a focus that can. I hear the language here, and I don't know if I'm answering the question, but it's a center. It talks about a center between two breaths. So maybe it's not just the laser, but it's sort of finding that, like that target, to sort of that one-pointedness in a way.
Unwavering, unflickering. When you said laser, I thought of like an unflickering continuity. And I think when we have a laser, we just look at it, it's like so consistent, so steady. It's just like, doesn't even look like it, like a light. You can't even imagine it. It's just like a dot on the wall. I can feel that. Do you want to meditate? Oh.
Yeah, I always want to meditate.
I was going to say we could take that in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, but meditation's better.
Anyone else before we sit and establish the power of awareness and continuity, as we always call it? All right, let us now establish our power of awareness and continuity. I felt it though when you were talking, Dharma. I hope it comes through. So our goal in this practice is to not lose focus for even one moment. Does that mean you won't lose your focus? No, that just means it's our goal. And why not shoot for such a high goal? Who says you can't do it? And so this is not going to be a product of our will, right? As Tashi was explaining. As you sit, your body is the first layer of illusion that we have to find our way through. And we do that by balancing the body. Babaji often says almost like you're balancing on the head of a pin. Spine is vertical, back is relaxed yet upright. And as you establish stillness and continuity, not just stillness for a moment, but stillness for many moments in a row, you begin to, as Paul Reps puts it, overflow with awareness. This is the first layer of our asana practice, the physical stillness in continuity. And from here, the experience of the breath presents itself. We have the inhalation and the exhalation. And the space between each breath. Without holding your breath, hold your awareness in that space. Anticipate illusion. Persevere in continuity. The space between the breath is not able to be held by the mind. It's a space of intuition beyond the mind. You can only hold it in a space of feeling. For our last minute together, you can just let the eyes open a little bit. And just try to feel this work of the awareness of the space between your breaths. It's a really effortless practice that we can do so much more in our day. And hopefully this few minutes right now just whets your appetite. Right, namaste.
Thanks, everybody. So great to see you. And just a couple of announcements about programs we have coming up, because you have many friends and maybe they see how beautiful and radiant you've become from your connection to the ashram and they would like to partake. So we have a level 1 meditation teacher training that runs for 10 weeks online starting October 3rd. A level 1 yoga teacher training starting at the end of September that just runs on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for 8 weeks. And then we also have an upper level meditation teacher training starting in January and an upper level yoga teacher training in December. So if you think you know someone who might be interested, I can email you some more information. And thank you for helping us spread the word on all these special things we've got happening.
Yeah. Marketing's the hard part. Everything else is the fun part. Well, thanks, everyone. So good to see you. I can't wait to see you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and just a reminder, next week is Babaji's birthday intensive, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so starting a week from tomorrow. So if you haven't signed up on the Sangha website, be sure to do that. It's going to be incredible.
So good at remembering everything.
I'm sure I forgot something. Yeah. I forgot my name, but just kidding.
See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
I have a mailing list, so just